Y'all, so this is what if Issei was half dragon. Now, the only way I can see about doing this is that we're going to start this off with Issei's father, a few years before he's born. And then I'm wondering, how is this going to start? Well, Issei's father is a human. Might be thinking, okay, it's not really a big deal. It's the same guy, but in this version, he's basically a hero. Basically, imagine Basara's father, that's basically who he is. The strongest hero. He's literally able to run the ones with Sir Zex on an even scale. In fact, it takes Sir Zex and another, Demon Lord level threat. Sometimes it's even taken Sir Zex and Leviathan jumping Issei's dad to beat him. That's an example of how powerful he is. Now, we've got 3 8-tailed, 8-winged creatures. There's one that's a devil, one that's an angel, and one that's a fallen angel. I'm wondering, why are all 3 going at this dude at once? Now, he's kind of good friends, and I mean really good friends with Azazel. So yeah. They're all going after him. The Holy One, the angel, is going after Issei's father because he kinda stole something from heaven. But this is kind of a really selfish angel, which is kind of a sin, but this one I'm gonna say won't fall for reasons. That's it. We've got the fallen angel, who's there just because, didn't want to deal with it, because he actually did steal a weapon that fallen angels kind of took away. And the final one would be the devils. This one wasn't even sent. He just really hates Issei's father for kind of breaking up his harem, which is because the devil was having a good harem. He was living a good life. When Issei's father said, "Y'all really serve this lightweight?" and beat the crap out of him. So yeah, the devil's pissed, angel's pissed, and the fallen's pissed too. Now, Issei's father only took these things because they were literally going to be used to kill people, and because the harem thing kind of pissed him off, because he didn't really care for the devil, because he was kind of a jackass. He's basically like Riser, in a sense. He acts just like him, so yeah. That wouldn't be a really big difficult thing for him to do. So yeah, these are literally the top, high-leveled, demons. These guys are powerful enough to make even Sir Zex struggle. From the demon, the angel makes Michael struggle in a fight, and the fallen would even take Azazel a minute to fight. And they noticed that these are the 3 top fighters, even from the last war. These were the 3 that no one could handle. But they've actually made a plan to kind of abandon their own thing, their own kind of faction, to be their own little thing. Michael allows them to be left alone if they want to. If they want to leave heaven and all that, it's on them. He won't make them fall or anything. They can just leave if they want to. Which is what they did. Which is what this one did. But he wanted to grab the sword from this guy, which was the dragon-slaying sword Issei would wield in the future. And then there's a black katana he took from the devil, which is kind of a demonic katana. It's pitch black and it's 6 foot. It's a 6-foot sword. Whole thing is that you're supposed to be able to you have to throw the scabbard up and jump to grab it after it comes off the blade. It's that big of a sword. And the one that he took from the fallen angels, this is a good bit of years before Zenobia exists, so it was actually to Randall. He's one of the original wielders. And Issei's father's kind of beating the crap out of him, honestly. He's literally beating them all down to a bloody pulp. But they all possess Phoenix tears because they kind of bought them off. The devil dude. The Phoenix family. Which Issei's father was like, shit. Because they were able to get some good damage in. He's literally got a light spear hanging out his side, a demonic spell in his left rib, and an angelic light sword piercing his chest. So yeah, he's got 3 very powerful shit hanging out his chest. He's pissed. And then Issei's mother finds this, and she is a giant blue western dragon. Now, this is why Issei has blue armor in this version. I mean, honestly, his balance breaker is just gonna be this, but whatever. The blue armor is kind of just like a showing of things. Now, Issei's mother isn't on the level of Tiamat, but she wouldn't be an easy fight for... It wouldn't be an easy fight for Tiamat either. She's basically right underneath Tiamat in levels of strength, and Tiamat is the strongest Dragon King. She's closer to the power of the Meteor Dragon Tannen, which means she's pretty powerful too. She would be a Dragon King level threat in her own right, but she chose not to be. And she's not really known by anyone, so that's why it's the main reason. Now, there is a dragon thing that dragons must be beaten to be... They have to mate with someone stronger than themselves. That's why female dragons like Ophis are still single. I mean, yeah, there's one dragon stronger than her, but she wouldn't go with the guy because she kind of hates him. Great Red. So, yeah. And Issei's doing his, main thing, being a beast, whatever. So, like I'm saying, Issei's father is literally fighting them off in a 3-on-1, and they just got healed. And he doesn't know how many they've got. And, unluckily for him, they've got tons of Phoenix Tears each. They've got like 10 each, in case of like dire emergencies. But Issei's father is now basically barely standing. And you might be wondering, if he has 3 weapons, what style is he using? Funny thing is, he's using the 3-sword style, like Zoro. Now, he's basically keeping it 1-to-1 with all of these things. Now, here's where we cut to what's happening. Now that these guys are healed up, after being, near death, they're keeping up to a dead stalemate. Like, now Issei's father, after they healed up again, costing only 2 of their Phoenix Tears, which they still have 8 left. Each. He's literally with one arm on the ground, bleeding, barely able to grip Durandal. The fallen angel tries to take it from him, only to be sent flying by a roar, which terrified him, as the human girl that was in the park just transformed into a giant blue western dragon. And she said, "It has to be a 3-on-1 with you mere weaklings." I have to say, very well, but I have a question. Would you like some help? Issei's father saying, "Sure, I'll take any help I can get." Good. Now, you 3, as she kind of terrifies each of them, saying in her blue dragon form, you will now have to make it a 2-on-3, and be scared, little ones. Looking down at them, they're kind of terrified, but they think they can handle her. Little did they know who they were up against. The blue dragon Mickey. And this was literally known as the only dragon to be able to scare Tiamat. As far as female dragons go, she's the second strongest. Well, third, that is, third that's not, because she's not a god. There's Ophis, Tiamat, and then there's her. That's the order of strength. Now, she's seen Tannen and didn't think he was that big of a deal. She does know who Great Red and Drake are, but she doesn't see them as really that worthy of it. And she doesn't really care for Albion's style, so yeah, she doesn't really see any male that's worth it, but she just got a little bump in her heart whenever she saw this guy. He's quite the charmer. And then something surprising happens. As these 3 are doing their best to fight, being now drawn to where they only have 2 Phoenix Tears left each, and Issei's father is barely standing on his feet, and she's even kind of a little worn out at this point. She's actually wondering, alright, how much left? And then you hear a flap of wings, which would usually not really be a big deal. But then we see a giant dragon landing. A kind of purple looking one. It's the only dragon that looks like that. It's Tiamat, which kinda honestly terrifies them. This is when Issei's mother would say, "Tiamat, good, you got my call. So can I get a hand here? These little ones actually kept getting Phoenix tears to win. Tiamat saying, you runts, you dare attack my best friend? This terrifying them three. They knew they had a few Phoenix tears left, and they've only been able to take out these two almost godly creatures, giving it everything they've had. But there's one more that would definitely be able to take them out of the equation. Which Tiamat actually did some, healing magic, which she by chance has a few spells, which healed them both up to max. This is when Issei's father pops his neck, saying, "Oh, that's good," putting a sword back in his mouth and getting into his stance again. Three-sword style, which kind of terrifies them. The female dragon began to howl as lightning started to strike the ground. Being that she's kind of a sprite dragon, she's a sprite dragon, but also kind of a mix between a sprite dragon and another one, which makes her able to use lightning and water. She's as close to a storm dragon as it kind of gets, without being one, which she can make it terrifyingly rain. Then Tiamat steps in saying, let's make it a 3-on-3. The three creatures being like, oh, we are so screwed. And these three actually all did an attack at once, which was preferably actually stronger than Sir Zex's attack, because they're combining all three of their power at once. This made it where it's almost an unstoppable power, which launched into, it was about to hit Tiamat, which even Tiamat noted that would probably hurt her pretty bad. She's kind of in fear because she couldn't dodge it. But then Issei's mother's about to step between it, when Issei's father just pushes her out the way and tanks it, which drug him back almost the entire park. Then he lightning flashes forward and just straight up did one kick to the side, breaking the arm of the devil. As the angel and fallen are like, oh, thank goodness he didn't attack us quite yet. But they go to block an attack from him just for him to swarp away and break the leg of the angel. The fallen, being the only one that's not gotten a broken limb, is kind of terrified because they only have one left, a Phoenix tear each. As a complete boom was heard as he was kicked in the chest so hard that it shattered his ribcage. All three of these were sent kind of hurtling back, barely standing, as the only two that could still kind of move around with only one limb, because the one with one leg is now kind of really messed up. But he takes two Phoenixes out, dousing one on himself and one on the fallen angel, and the guy who's a devil doused one on himself. Now noting that they're kind of royally out of luck, they're kind of scared on what to do, because they just wasted their final Phoenix here, and these three creatures of absolute unstoppable proportions are barely injured, mainly being Issei's father, as he's taken the brunt of the attacks. As he yelled, "Final power," putting a magic into his fist, putting his swords away, doing a punch that almost leveled the entire park. As his fist hit the ground, he collapsed. As these two female dragons were like, we found ourselves a good ally, as they hit these three with almost an unstoppable power, which almost killed them. Now, as these three hit the ground, they're terrified, seeing two giant dragons and the spirit of an absolute monster behind a human. Even if he's already passed out, that's still terrifying them, as he collapses. Now, they ask him if he has a sacred gear, which when he wakes up, after they healed him, they ask him, do you have a sacred gear, and why, if you so, why didn't you use it? He said, he has one, but it's kind of useless in a fight. Ask him which one it was, he said it's called the living. I think it's called Fountain of Youth. Its entire thing is that it just makes it where I won't die. Wait, so you just can't die? Oh no, I can die. I just can't die of old age. Kind of traps me in my 20s. How old are you? 25. Really? So you're going to be trapped like this for how long? Until about I feel like it. When I really want to die, I can pass the gear on, but it'll be a very big burden on whoever takes it next. The person before me had it for over 30,000, for around 2,000 years. Being quite impressed, saying, alright. Then saying, alright, now what else do we have to do? And then Mickey, who's kind of blushing, seeing this ripped guy in her human form, is actually kind of surprised and asked him where he lives. And he said if she needs a, and she said she was just passing by this town, but she had nothing to say for the night. Would he be willing to accommodate her? And he said sure, he had a house. Their kind of love blossomed, and 2 years later, Issei was born underneath the house. Which, the way they did it was, like, there's a basement, which is big enough, tower-wise, for her to give birth. She gave birth to Issei, but even though Tiamat had to be the one to help deliver the baby, since of how much of a powerhouse she was, and they had to kind of use magic to make it where it's thought where Issei was born, and exactly what time and everything. Yeah, it was kind of a pain, because Tiamat literally having to deal with all this. This is when she picks up Issei, a beautiful baby boy. Then she noticed something on her chest, because all she wore was a blue kimono, which was quite open, exposing her chest. Think Konoko's older sister, but a little bit more cleavage. As they see this entire thing, they see a red dragon mark appear on her chest, which I'm not sure if this actually happens, but I see a lot of what-ifers using this as a thing, so I'm going to use it just this one. I think just this once. This is when she noted that as the boosted gear popped out of Issei's arm, out of his left arm, and said, it appears my partner has chosen you to be its mate, Tiamat. Tiamat opening her eyes in rage, saying, Drake, how dare you get into this boy and do something so horrendous, as she's enraged, as Issei's father has to hold her back, saying, remember, that's my son. He hasn't done anything wrong. Even if he did get stuck with Drake. And this is when there's something said that was completely confusing to everyone. So, Drake, why did you mark Tiamat? And then Drake said, oh, please, if it was my choice, I wouldn't do it. She's killed so many of my past selves, of my past hosts. I'm not going to go near her if I could get the chance, but she was right there when the boy was born. It was the boy's choice. He literally chose to mark her. And this is when Issei kind of just snuggled into Tiamat's chest. Tiamat being a little bit surprised, saying, so the boy wants to mark me as his? Yes. This is when Issei's mother said, as she's finally recovered, using a lot of magic, saying, Tiamat, what are you planning on doing with my son? As lightning starts to shake around in the room. As Tiamat said, nothing? Oh. Well, just know, once he's of age, you have my blessing. Tiamat hearing this saying, really? Yes. And then saying, Drake, I hate you with everything in my body, but for her sake, I will not kill her son for being the possessor of you. What I will do is I will end you once we can find a way to get you out of him. But luckily for Drake, that's not possible. And Drake's hoping it's not possible, because if it was, that would mean that in his way weaker form, he'd have to deal with Tiamat. And he's not even half of as powerful as she is in his weaker form. So he'd know he'd be really screwed. Now back to the whole thing. Issei, we're going to do a time skip 27. Around 5, whenever his, childhood friend moves away, he's kind of sad by this. But he notes every day he's been training with his father, and now he can wield both doll, and that dragon sword, which, yeah, Issei's father kind of kept for so long. Now, Tiamat, she doesn't quite live with them, but she may as well. She's literally there every single day. While she does not live there, she may as well. And Issei has a huge crush on her, which she completely knows, as the red dragon mark is still in her chest, gifted by Issei himself, which we're going to skip a few years forward to when he's about 12, in mere 6th grader, when he's starting to figure his body out, and he starts figuring out her. And he actually, one day, triggers the mark, trying to enact it, and not knowing what he just did, Tiamat busts in the room saying, "What are you doing?" This terrified Issei as he fell on his back, when he was standing just trying to figure out his magic, and this is when Drake would start laughing through the gauntlet, saying, "Oh, partner, you ballsy little one." Issei at this point is probably on the level of a high-class devil. He would literally make Rias go terrified if he was to go against her in a one-to-one. But, anyway, Issei noted that Issei had apologized, saying he was just trying to figure out his magic and figure out what this kind of thing that was keeping popping in his head is. And she explained what happened when he was born, about him giving her a seal, trying to become mates. Issei, knowing what mating is, he's completely terrified. And then he apologizes to Tiamat, saying, "I'm sorry if that offended you. Please don't hurt me, Tiamat." And then Tiamat saying, "Boy, if I would have hurt you, it'd be so long ago. I really don't mind the mark. Just know, if you really want to do that, you have to defeat me first." This sparring Issei on the train even more. As a few years pass, we go to where it actually is in canon. Issei has actually challenged Tiamat twice. The first time being put so bad on his ass that he literally had his mother and father had to step in and hold Tiamat back before she did the final attack, because it would have almost killed Issei. His father having to block with Durandal and that super sword he had, and the devil sword, he literally kind of was just, as this knocked both of his swords out, he kind of just pulled the devil sword out, trying to make it an even one-to-one with Tiamat, though he was literally getting whooped doing it. Now, Issei's father is in no chance weak, but this is the strongest Dragon King. Literally no one can handle this, other than the Dragon God, or the actual Devil faction. Noting that Tiamat herself could probably take out most devils, except for one. That would be literally just Sursex Lucifer, who would have to literally go all out just to keep it even. Which, honestly, would be impressive. But, anyway, back to the video. So we go back. So Issei is doing his thing, he's living his life, when something terrifying happens. His gear Drake warned him of something, saying, "Watch your step," as Issei completely tripped and fell right into a girl's chest, who he didn't see there. And he apologizes, and then this girl says, "Are you Issei Hyodo?" And Issei said yes, kind of being afraid, as he's still known as a pretty big pervert from Kuo. And then she said, "Would you be my boyfriend?" And Issei's like, "Hell yes. Yes, yes, yes," with just all the yeses. And this is when Yuma said, "Okay, my name is Yuma Amano." And if you know who this is, you're probably in the same condition I am in feeling about that. Now, she said it was going to be Sunday, same thing happened, but then Yuma attacked him, which had a whole different outcome. Issei wasn't expecting this. "Would you die for me? Would you die for me?" Issei's heard of fallen angels before, and he knows he would probably be able to take on all but Azazel himself. Now, he was kind of planning on taking on, and he knew that he could literally handle Kokubi like it was a joke to him, but this girl, he kind of liked her. But then, 3 fallen angel light spears pierced his back as he wasn't expecting them, when Yuma was kind of transforming, which Issei didn't have his guard up, he was just completely terrified. Then he remembered, wait, I'm stronger than her by far. But then, as there's 3 light spears pointing out his back, he turns his head, yelling, "Rah!" As his full power went out, his father teleported in, as did both. Right before his father was about to teleport in, when he noted that someone would placed a barrier around it, he'd have to run there. His mother, actually going full rage, flies there at max speed, which is really fast. And Tiamat, feeling that her mate was in danger, because Issei almost beat her this last fight, goes in like a bullet, even passing Issei's mother, barely in speed. Barely. And that's only because, well, honestly, she's just faster. That's the only reason she was able to pass Issei's mother. And then Issei's father's like, you know what? Fuck this. As he stepped and sang, as he pulled the black sword out, Thunder Step. It literally flung him almost halfway there in an instant. But as he huffed and puffed, saying, I hate using that. Thunder Step. Doing one more step, which left a huge crater in the ground of his foot, crashing him the rest of the way there, but maybe a few feet behind the barrier. And even Tiamat saying this is being held by 4 magic powers. They have no clue whose they are, but they are definitely fallen angel. Not knowing that there was any fallen angel in this town, Issei's father was actually enraged that this was happening to his son. But then he remembered something. It would take all 3. It would take at least 2 of the strongest fallen angels to attack him. Or maybe even just Kokobeel, and I'd say maybe 4 normal fallen angels to kill him. That was if he wasn't surprised. Which, as Issei has 4 light spears in his back, he sends them out. He kind of tears them all out, throwing them on the ground, huffing and puffing, as he yells, "You pathetic insects! You dare attack me, you crows!" As his dragon wings pop out, tearing his shirt. As every step he takes makes the earth kind of shake a little bit. As he's looking them in the eye, as he's looking Rainier in the eyes, none of the attacks are coming anywhere near to piercing him anymore. But he's literally losing so much blood, thinking, as he kind of collapses to the ground, as Rainier saying, "Oh, we probably should have mentioned we coated these in a poison. You won't be able to survive this, dragon boy." As they see as a light spear pops out of Rainier's hand, as powerful as she could, and she stabs it dead into the chest of Issei. Issei saying, "You stupid crows." As he collapses to the ground, he sees something. He thinks about Rias and the flyer he got today. Now, as Rias got there, she said, "Oh no, he's hurt." And she actually takes all 8 of her pawn pieces, seeing as that may be possible to take it, and it does. That's the only thing they would accept it. As Issei collapsed, as Issei would wake, as this is when Issei's father, mother, and Tiamat would straight bust through the barrier with full force. And they see a literal fallen Issei with blood all over him, and Rias holding him. And they said, "Devil, what did you do to my son?" As Issei's mother roars out in rage. And then Rias said something unexpected to them. "I just saved his life." He was literally killed by fallen angels. Seeing traces of light spears still on the ground, this is when Issei's father recognized who these light spears belonged to. They belonged to Kokobeel's group. There was Kokobeel and 4 fallen angels. He could sense that these all had been given a power up by Kokobeel himself. This is when Issei's mother actually stopped being angry at Rias and said, "You saved my son. Thank you." you can't thank me quite yet. I did just have to give him all 8 of my pawn pieces for him to survive. Wait, so he's going to become a devil? Because of how powerful dragons are, he'll still be mainly dragon. And then, Isei's father said, well, he's actually half human, half dragon. Wait, really? Well, then he'll be half dragon, half devil. Oh, alright. And then in her dragon form, Tiamat has a giant red dragon symbol, which Issei kind of has one on his bicep, which is kind of something he can just straight up put magic into, and Tiamat would feel it. Which then reassess. You and the boy have the same mark on your chest to his arm. Does that mean you're his mate? Hearing the word saying yes, kind of confusing them. Hold on a second. Alright guys, I'm back. Just had to do something real quick. So yeah, in this version, yeah, everyone being this is when Reese is a little shocked, recognizing exactly who these people are. Then he said, is that Mickey? Then he said, by chance, are you Mickey, the Storm Dragon of Destruction? Yes, that is me in my title. Are you the legendary warrior who said that the power of the mouth is quick and calm, as if it was nothing to him? Yeah, that's me, and one of the things I do. And you're the Dragon Tiamat, correct? Yes, I am Dragon King Tiamat. Wait, so you 3 legends are in this area? Yeah. And this is your son and your mate, correct? How powerful is he? Because he only took 8 pawn pieces from me. Alright, let me simplify this for you. The way it works is it'll take as much as it can. And pawn pieces being very versatile is what allows it to be that much. But he's taking your max amount of pawn pieces because of how powerful he is. Alright, he also wields the boosted gear. What? And he wields the boosted gear. And this is when Rhea said, question, how powerful do you think he is without the boosted gear? And then this is when Tiamat said, as powerful as the Dragon King, as the other Dragon Kings, almost as powerful as me. And how powerful with the boosted gear? Easily as strong as Great Red, and maybe Ophis as well. Great Red and Ophis level. What? So he's basically a dragon god at this point. With another dragon's power, yes. This is when it's at, and this is when Rhea says, so, I got a question. Why is the embodiment of, oh crap, he's that powerful? Why was he beaten by mere fallen angels? Because I know who these, I think they're, based off the power that they used, I wouldn't bet it would be normal fallen angels. I think they were just normal fallen angels, as small as these light spears are. And this is when Issei's father said something. They're Kokobil's faction, and they probably got granted power from him. I'd say they're each maybe a quarter as powerful as Kokobil. Maybe 6 wings, maybe 2 4 wings as well. That's what they'd have to be able to do this to Issei. 6 wing, and 2 4 wings? Yes, I'd say maybe Donaseek, Rainair, Caliburn or whatever, and this one blonde-headed little tiny chick. At least that's what the magic signatures are. Though I cannot tell where they are. They put a good enough barrier around where they are where I cannot find them. Anyway, Rias is it. Take care of my son. Then saying, oh yeah, you said you're human. You're just powerful. I've got a question. What is your plan when you die of old age, and your wife and son still look like they're in their 20s? Oh, that won't happen. Hearing this kind of confuses Issei, and Issei said, what do you mean? This is kind of confuses Reese, saying, what do you mean? You're a human. And then Issei's father, and then this is when Issei busts out his own sacred gear. Well, I have the immortal gear. I'm literally going to live forever, if I want to. As powerful as I am, you know it would take a lot more than what most people have to kill me. Anyway, whatever. And then they said, so what about healing him? This is when something happens. As Tiamat raises her hand saying, I'll heal him, but it would take the healing magic skill that's very difficult. And then Rhea said there's one she knows as well, but it required them to lay with them the whole night. This is when Issei's mother said, no. And Issei's father said, my boy's finally getting a harem. I'm so proud. Just to get punched into the next room by his mother. Using creation magic, it wasn't that hard to fix it, but still. Back to the what if. As the 2 days passed, where then Issei kind of, wakes up with Reese in his bed, and Tiamat, oddly enough, it's kind of a dream come true to him. Asking what's going on, knowing that he's now a devil, he's strong, which increases his power a few fold. But Issei's wondering how powerful he is now, and said, Tiamat, I want you to roll for the same usual thing. I win, we get to mate. Tiamat saying, alright, but no boosted gear. This is when, even though it was unexpected, Drake said, you're going to get wrecked. And then Issei and Yuma both said, who are you talking to, Drake? Remember, you're no stronger than us. Oh, shut up, boy, as he was told. As Tiamat's power shows, saying, silence, Drake. You may be stronger when you're fully healed, but you're not fully healed, are you? I'd say he right now could rip, if you were out of the gear, you'd easily be maybe a quarter of either of us. True. As Drake said, I'm out of the conversation. As he went back to sleep, only to see what Issei's plan was. Issei with his now devil superhuman power saying, wait, if I'm a devil, what piece am I? As Rhea said, you're a pawn, 8 to be exact. And then Issei said, can I promote? Sure. And it was promotion to queen. This made it where Issei's power rivaled Drake in his prime. This is when Tiamat said, you may be as strong as Drake was in his prime like this. Drake said, it's as strong as me? No one can be as strong as me. Oh crap, he's that powerful. Alright. That promotion to queen is no joke. I'm out. F you, I'm out. Knowing that he could boost this so many times to the point where this demon dragon boy would be the point where he was strong enough to take maybe even Great Red on his ass after maybe 2 or 3 boosts. Because Great Red would actually say the biggest opponents he's ever had was Drake and then Opus, as those two are the 2 most powerful. Anyway, back to the what if. As Issei went to school, then he noted that, alright, power-wise, he's maybe just a hair weaker than Drake was in his prime when he's, now that he's powerful like this. When he promotes to queen, he's almost as powerful as Drake. He's equivalent to Drake in his prime. Wondering what would happen if he was to promote to Rook, because that's way more offense-based. His hits would hit would be like cannons. But what about his night speed? Would that make him as fast as the jet dragons? As legendary full speed? faster than even Great Red, as the fastest dragon. Wait, if he was to go all out, as in full no holds barred, and promoted to bishop, would his magic be strong enough to blow apart the dimensional gap? He wanted to know so bad, but he couldn't figure it out right now. He was busy. Anyway, back to it. He met Kiba and said, "What's good, Kiba? So I guess you're the one who wants to take me now?" Kiba's saying, "Yep, let's go." They go, he's like, "Alright." And then he noted, demonically, he still didn't have very much power, even though everywhere else he was a complete unit. Then Issei said, "I got an idea. I can just bike there." Issei biking at the speed of, like, freaking a bus, which isn't that bad for bicycling. Then saying, maybe if I go Lambo speed, as he straight up just rockets past everyone on the road. Which, luckily for him, there's only like 2 or 3 cars, and they would never admit they got passed going 80 miles an hour on a bike. By someone going 80 miles an hour on a bike. So yeah, this makes it where Issei gets to his client and said, yada yada yada, are you really a devil? This is when Issei busts out the devil wing, saying, also I'm part dragon. The dude's like completely powerhouse, confused, and then said, "Oh, I got one skill I think you might like." And this is when Issei said, "Here, come here. This is kind of like the hyperbolic time chamber. It's basically my favorite skill, and this is also a cool ability I have, Kamehameha. Basically doing a Kamehameha at full force, which looks just like the Kamehameha." This actually just made the dude go like, wait, you can actually do that? Yeah. I'm not gonna make a contract with you Cyber for being around Konako, but that's badass, man. You think you can teach me how to do it? I can make time if you want a contract. Alright, I'll contract with you as well. But only rarely will I ever call for you instead of Konako. Understood, I understand. Anyway, as you know, he completely, leaves doing his main thing about training. This is when Issei saw something that was unexpected. He had to they were going to have to deal with a devil, a stray, which wouldn't be a big deal to him, honestly. He said, alright, what's so bad about a stray? This is when he met the stray, and he was like, what the fuck is that? That thing is ugly. And this is when she said something that made Issei laugh. She said, I bet I'm stronger than you or any mate you'd ever get, dragon boy. Calling yourself hotter than Tiamat. And this is when Issei basically said, yo, Tiamat, come on. You kind of getting her to come there with his magic. And this is when Tiamat pops up saying, what is it? What the fuck is that thing? That's terrifyingly ugly. If I was in the Dragon King, that might scare me. Devil said, oh, who are you supposed to be? Wait a minute. You're Tiamat, aren't you? Yes. This terrifies the stray right before Issei said, dragon shot! Completely blowing apart the stray, saying, alright, Rias, you want to use that destruction power you got? Do it. I'm good now. Alright. You're a freaking dragon powerhouse. Fair point. But then Issei kind of cracks his neck, just kind of waiting on a good fight. Now, he will still meet Asya, and things go normally. But then, whenever Issei doing his thing, something completely unexpected happens. As Issei, doing his normal shit, met with someone he wasn't expecting to ever meet. A nun. One with the sacred gear Twilight Healing, which he met, and she used on a boy. Him being nice as he is normally, then gives her, directions to, the church, escorts her there. And this is when Issei feels the same fallen energy. These were the Fallens that killed him. Those fucks. Oh, he had a plan for them. Now he still got a scolding from Rias, and Rias This is when Issei said, you know what? Nah, Reus, they killed me. No dragon stays with a defeat. This time they ain't gonna sneak my ass. Which, yeah, kinda getting snuck kinda sucks. I can speak from experience. If you sneak, you are a bitch. That can be said to anyone. Which is complete facts. Now, this is when something terrifying happens. Issei, doing his thing, then goes on that date with Asuka. Right when Rainier went the same way, Rainier, feeling a blast, feeling absolutely overwhelmed, as Issei said, "Oh yeah, what you gonna do now? Now that Issei's in the house." This made Rainier being like, "Wait, what? I thought I killed you." "Oh, you did. I'd be turned to a devil to come back. A devil. And now I'm gonna have to kill you for trying to kill me. I hope you can understand." This is when, as expected as normally, she would try to run away, but doesn't get very far, as he says, no. Now, we running back them ones, as she said, you know what? With the light spirit of Asuka's neck, Issei knew he could outspeed her and try and stop her, but he also knew it'd be a pain in the ass to do it. It'd be difficult for him. But then he made a split-second decision. No, he wasn't going to kill him only this one. He'll kill them all. He'll have them dead all at once. As Issei kind of, saw Asuka get taken, and then made the same deal he had made with, Reus, taking off, doing his thing. And he told his father, mother, and Tiamat about this. And Tiamat was like, "Oh, a nice little girl. Oh, you're already trying to get another mate to my partner." And this is when Issei said, "You know as well as I do, dragons can have as many mates as they feel like, if they're strong enough." True. But guess what? As she whispered into his ear, "Even think for a second that you'll be able to grab too many women that I do not approve of, and I will destroy you. Is that understood?" As Issei said, "Oh dang, you're real serious about this?" Saying, "Yes, I am. If I don't approve of them, you're not allowed to have them. Understood?" Issei said, "Yeah. But this nun girl seems good. I'll let her in." "Cool, what about Reus?" "I don't know about that. We'll see." Okay. Then Issei kind of did his thing, kind of vanished, doing his main thing. As he straight up just boom, right when he meets Kiba and Konako, saying, "Yo, Night Boy, Rook Girl, we about to go busting in here with the power of Beast." Which Issei was still kind of beast mode out, as his armor kind of started to appear, but noting it had a blue hue to it. It's from his mother's magic that he got. And it had a little bit of a green aura on it as well. It was a bluish green aura between his mother's dark blue and his father's bright green, which made this weird color of cyan. But whenever he activated boosted gear, he had never gotten the balance breaker on it. I mean, he will still get the regular red balance breaker, but he will always have access to the bluish armor, which is just him coating it in his mother's magic, which is kind of just storm magic, to block things, basically. Now, the thing is, we're going back to the whole thing, as Issei basically walks in there with those two, the first thing they see is all these exorcists and then Freed. Issei recognizes Freed way too well. He's looking him in the eyes. And he said, "Freed, oh, it's gonna be fun. I know who you is. Freed sells it. Weren't you all drinking buddies with my pa? Who's your dad?" And then Issei mentioned his dad's name, and he was like, "Wait, what the fuck? That's your daddy? Oh, hell yeah. He was the only guy who would ever outdrink me. Freed." And then Freed said, "You know what? I lost contact with your dad. What happened to him?" "Oh, he's fine right now. Married a dragon." "What the fuck? He married a dragon?" "Yeah. And I'm getting with Tiamat." "Holy shit, that takes some balls to do. I'll tell you what, kid. I'll talk to you later. As he completely, said, but I'd be super happy, but you're still devil scum, so I still kind of have to, kill ya. And then Issei said, oh, you should have known. I'm way stronger than you. What? Yeah, I'm actually stronger than my father. This is when Freed said, what the fuck? Freed saying these words, he put me on my ass so many times. Hell, I needed a phoenix tear to recover after he literally kicked a hole into my chest. When I was wielding a sword, and he was going bare knuckle. Yeah, he'll do that. Later, as he's basically just getting beaten down on, as all 4 of the fallen angels would appear. Actually, you know what? Never mind. Basically what happened was, Issei kind of had to leave as he knew the fallen angels would appear, and he was not able to take him on just yet. He could power-wise, and he was up for defense, but whenever he turned to see the fallen angel sign, he got shot by Freed right in the kneecap, busting him down to one knee, as he was thinking about, oh, Freed, I'm going to kick your ass. And this is when Issei's father actually appeared behind them, as well as Tiamat and Issei's mother right behind him. As Issei's father said, hey, Freed, buddy, how you been? And this is when Freed's like, no, keep him away from me. Keep away from me. Last time you got too close, you almost killed me. And it was like, oh, I was just a little bit drunk and I couldn't figure out how to use my full force properly. You threw me, as he yells, you threw me through a mountain. You're alive, aren't you? It took a phoenix tear. Anyway, saying, yeah, not expecting the whole thing about a phoenix tear, which still barely kind of saved him. Which he really needed the phoenix tear to save him, which was still difficult. Though he did need a phoenix tear to save his life, he wasn't quite as perfectly healed as you'd expect. He was quite injured. And by quite injured, I mean royally injured. There's injuries all over it. As Freed said, you know what? Nah, I am out, as he threw down the light thing and said, fuck you, as he vanished in a magic circle. The last thing he said was, look, the Fallens are either outside, because they're coming inside, and Raynair's under there trying to extract that gear from the nun. That's it, I'm out, as he vanished. And then his father's like, he's still kind of a bitch. What if I could kick him down the mountain again? And this is when Issei said, you did that before and you want to do it again? I mean, yeah, playing Freed ball is pretty fun. Really, what is it? Basically, you kick him like a soccer ball as far and hard as you can. Anything in the way, he goes through it. Now that explains why he was so scared of you. Oh, trust me, we had another game too. What was that? Whoever got the most wasted and did the stupidest shit would have to buy drinks for the next 2 days. And guess what? We'd play the game every single day. I would get more wasted, but he would do more stupid crap. So in other words, y'all basically just drunk as shit and blew stuff up. Basically. Alright, whatever. As Issei still kind of had to save Asuya as he busts down there, as they absolutely easily took apart the entirety of these lightweights. As Rias had basically busted in saying, wow, they couldn't take on the Fallens outside, as Tiamat said, you 3, you have a rematch, you know, as well as your associate. Being completely confused about this, saying, what rematch? Oh, with Issei, dear. Tiamat saying, you hurt my mate. Now my mate is going to murder you. Wait, but didn't we kill him? Yes, you killed him, but now he's back and wants to kick your ass. Tiamat saying, this is going to be so funny to watch. As she went down into her human form, saying, go on. As lightning strikes, seeing mother saying, "What are you doing, Tiamat? We were gonna kill them." And then Tiamat saying, "You do remember this is Issei's kill, right?" Fair point. And she went down to her human form too and started laughing. This is when Issei's father, who brought a bag of popcorn, said, as he opens the thing, "Let's eat some popcorn. This is gonna be hilarious." Still kind of confused. They're like, "Alright, what's the big deal? Oh crap." As they go in to see, even though Asya died, and Issei kind of, jumped upstairs, as, the entirety of Issei's garage, with Rias and all of them are blowing the exorcist apart, there is only one that, as the fallen angel, Rainier with the power, Issei enraged, started beating the crap out of her, and knocked the sacred gear out of her. As Twilight Healing fell to the ground, Issei put it back on her, as Rias, revived Asya into her, actual devil form, which she actually moved in with Issei. That wasn't really a big deal. Issei had the room, and then every single time Rias would do something perverted, Asya would do the same, and Tiamat, not wanting to be left behind by these children, would do the exact same thing. And Tiamat was very well endowed. Probably the only one more well endowed than Rias and Akano at the school. Compared to, everyone. As then we see something completely unexpected. We're panning over to Issei, talking with, his buddy, saying, "Dude, you might want to train a little bit." Well, I mean, honestly, dude, you're kinda weak. All I'd have to do is land one good shot on you and you'd probably be in the dirt. Dude, you are literally as strong as Drake. Legendary dragon that made all the factions shit themselves. True. But remember, you're my teammate. You're gonna have to be strong enough to keep up with me. Ah, fuck, he thinks. He's kinda scared shitless. But it wouldn't really be a big deal, as Issei then kinda says, whatever. As he kinda uses his pure power to let out a force hit that was more powerful than anything they'd ever seen. It was a dragonic shot. A dragon shot which made even, even Dre kind of jealous of the power of it. Now, Issei would train his body this whole time, and this is when the whole thing with Riser happened. Rias would pop into Issei's bed, and unexpectedly... Alright, back to the video anyway. As Rias comes in, and Issei's like, "Alright," as he put a sound barrier around the room, saying, you may scream a little bit when you see it. As he drops Trow, which this is right when Grafia pops in, using her full force of magic to bust in. As she sees what's going on, as Rias is kind of just in awe, and even she's in awe a good bit, because this makes even Sir Zex look like a tiny child. As Issei's thing is just swinging down in the wind, noting, "That's a monster." This is when Rias turns her head, saying, "I've decided what I'm going to do, but with this slowly here." Silence. As Issei said, "I am the dragon of true dragonic power. I am Issei Yoto, the true dragon of destruction." This made even Grafia a little overwhelmed by the amount of power he had in his voice. And Rias was just in awe, saying, "Listen up. I'm going to use a power I rarely use. I'm going to use the meat pole I have to teach this little crimson princess what a monster is, and what the power of a dragon can truly be. If I do this, you're going to get the dragon mark of the mate. Are you ready for that, Rias?" This is when Asya busts in. This is when Asya won't bust in. This is when Tiamat feels something odd, and kind of peeps in a little bit, through her magic. And this is when she sees the monster Issei has become, saying, "Holy crap, that thing is massive. I knew it." And then then she's thinking, if this girl capitalizes, so many years of hard work is going to go down the drain. Even thinking about saying, think about just stepping in saying, no, he's my man. And then noting, that's Grafia. That chick who actually was able to land a hit on Drake that one time. I think she put Drake on his ass that one time, which was hilarious to her, because she's just recalling all the times Drake got put on his ass in his final fight. This is when Issei actually does something unexpected, saying, look, we can do this if you want to, but if you're not certain about it right now, why don't we just see about what happens? And then Reese kind of leaves. A little bit disappointed, but, it is what it is. As Issei said, you know what? I'll tell you what. We'll see what happens. And then she said, alright, well, meet me after school in, the same place. The Occult Research Club, alright? Issei said, just sure, I'll be there. And then said, hey, Grafia, you ever want to take a call? Just call for the True Red Dragon. This actually left Grafia gobsmacked. No one had ever talked to her that way, except for literally one person, and that was the literal demon lord himself. And that was because they were a thing. I emphasis on were. While she does have a kid with him, she wouldn't be against having another one with this monster, but she wouldn't think it would fit. Being completely surprised, she said, I'll think about it. But then amping her power up, saying, but are you sure you can handle all this? Issei actually leveling his power to actually full force, saying, I don't know. Sure you can handle all this? And then she said, good point. Madam, let's go. And then they go out to the magic circle. Next day, Issei walks into the Occult Research Club, not caring at all, and then he sees something unexpected. He says, hey, does anyone else smell fried chicken? Like burnt fried chicken, though? What do you mean, burnt fried chicken? I don't know. It just smells like it. As this is when Riser would appear through a pillar of fire, saying, Riser has arrived. Riser Phoenix has arrived. And this is where he said, oh, a phoenix. That explains so much. Alright, never mind. I figured out where the smell's coming from. And this is where Riser said, what? The masculine smell of a true warrior? Must not come here very often, does it? And this is when he said, no. The smell of burnt fried chicken. How dare you? As Riser goes to actually threaten Issei, and Issei said, listen up, small fry. You throw an attack at me, I'm leveling this entire building with you inside it. I will literally send you into the dimensional gap, flying into Great Red. I will literally drag you through 8 different realms with all I have. I will literally make that healing factor of yours useless. I will turn you into ash before you can touch anything. I will literally send you to the moon just to punch you back to Earth. Repetitively. Hearing this, he's like, big talk from such a small man. As Riser looked down at Issei, as Issei said, shut it, you slinky fuck. Slapping Riser right in the mouth, sending him all the way back, when Grafia raised her power, saying, need I intervene? Which Riser said, even I would back up against the queen, the unstoppable queen. And Issei said, what did I say before, Grafia? Powering up to his full force, actually overwhelming her, saying, alright. And then he said, I'm not done with you. But then Grafia said, I still have my orders. You will have to destroy Grading Gate. You still do not marry this bird. This phoenix. Lady Grimmery. And then Issei said, oh, that'll be fun. Oh, and who are you? And, alright. I'll need a chance to get you for what you've said today. And then Issei said, you know what? Literally anyone on this team could probably beat your ass if I trained them for, I don't know, 2 fucking weeks. And this is when saying, you're given 10 days. Bye. They meet the next day and Issei's like, I got an idea. Hey yo, I'm gonna pull some strings. Let's train. Serious training. As Ria said, alright, I've got a base in the mountains. We can go train there. Oh, sweet. Let's go to the base of the mountain. And I'm gonna actually make it where to get there, we're gonna have to train. Issei noting he has these Issei actually then said, I got these weighted gauntlets, bracelets y'all can all wear. One can go on your arm, like your bicep, the other can go on your thigh, or you can just have them all on, like, your arm. I personally have to wear, like, 7 of them on my wrist, so not a big deal. This is when they're like, alright, let's meet here and we can get there. As they do, and Issei said, hey, as Tiamat is standing right behind him, as well as Issei's father and mother, and then he said, hey, how you doing? What are those 3 doing here? Oh, well, you see, we're training y'all how to beat the fuck out of some Phoenix fuckers, which Riser still pulled his crew out, but they weren't really anything to Issei. He just looked down at them. I mean, kind of made a little of them, you know, get a little giddy, but, you know, that was just his power of the dragon. As Issei kind of cracked his neck, saying, alright, well, everyone is going to wear gravity bracelets. It'll multiply the amount of gravity on your body to whatever you can handle. Issei then showed that he had 7 on each arm, 7 on each leg, and then he pops on one last one. That makes 7, 14, 28, 29. And these each go to 10 times. And Issei said, alright, this last one is like only times 5 to me because it's all adding up. So yeah. So he's going in 285 times Earth's gravity, just for his body to be enduring, with no boosted gear. And then he said, hey, Rias, here. As it multiplied itself to 2 times Earth's gravity. Kind of surprising, Rias. And then one for Akano, 2 times Earth's gravity. One for Kiba, 3 times Earth's gravity. One for Konako, 5 times Earth's gravity. And then one for Asya, 2 times Earth's gravity. And then Issei said, why are you and Akano so much closer to her level of power? Wait, don't tell me. Y'all only ever train your magic? Well, yes, we really never see a reason to go with training our bodies. And then Issei's like, that's not gonna do. So, you're gonna be training your bodies this entire time. Alright? And a little bit of your magic. Not much, but a little bit. Alright. Tiamat. As Tiamat popped in saying, what's up? Alright, here's a bracelet. As she said, alright. 10 times. Issei throwing on a few others. And then noting that only as she put 7 on her arms and 7 on her legs. And the final one being, you know, the final 7th, you know, the 28th bracelet she's wearing. She said, alright, that's it. Even though Issei had 29 of them on. Saying, alright. And then even saying, alright, it's only times 5 for her, so she's only able to handle 275. Not a bad one. His mother giving her a quite similar number of 7 on each leg, 7 on each leg, 7 on each leg, which makes it where there's basically 7, 7, and the final one, instead of it being 7, it's actually 6. Yeah. So yeah, and that, so her power is, she can handle 261 times Earth's gravity. This is her max. Actually, no, let's say 262. And then Issei's father's standing there saying, alright, well, son, let's get ready. As Issei threw 28 bracelets to him. Issei's father putting 1, 1, 1, 1. He put 7 on each arm and 7 on each leg, and then noted, that's the max he can go, which was literally 4, being 1 shy of Tiamat's times of what she could handle. And then Issei's father's like, dang, I can barely handle that much. And they're all like, what are you talking about? This is a lot. Not really. This is literally, these are our maxes. I'm amazed they're so low. And when Kiba said he's struggling to move around in 3 times Earth's gravity, even with his special night speed. Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, boy. You are going to have to run with that and try to make it where you can handle at least 4 bracelets by the end of this. I'm saying, hey, you, try to handle at least 5. You 2. Try to handle at least 2. And then turning to Aussie saying, for a bishop, I'm actually kind of surprised. Usually it'd be 1 point something for someone so weak. But you're actually handling 2 times Earth's gravity quite well. It may be your max, but it's still quite impressive that you're able to handle it. I'll tell you what. If you can make it where you can handle a 2nd bracelet by the end of this whole time, we'll give you as Issei's mother and father popped over against her, next to her saying, as Asia just showing with the fire in her eyes saying, I'll be able to handle as many bracelets as possible by the end of this. As Issei kind of just said, alright, let's climb the mountain. As they all kind of struggled getting up the mountain, they were all kind of clawing their way up it. Issei being so used to this kind of training that he's kind of just roaring out every step. And then we see Kiba actually stabbing his sword into the rock, struggling to drag himself up. And though Akeno and Riz are struggling as much, this is when Issei said, alright, as Issei threw all the luggage on top of himself and took steps like they were just struggling a little bit, making it where he got up the way up the mountain, and then he set the stuff down. A few seconds later, everyone else got up there, and they all said, oh, that was a good workout. Issei's family saying, alright, now we're going to wear these gauntlets every single day. This is when Kiba said, wait, what, that wasn't the full amount of training for the day? Oh no, that was just a climb. That was just getting here. That's nothing. Oh no. Yeah, by the way, I'm your swordsman teacher for the next 10 days. Issei made it where I had to do it, so sure. And then Issei's mother saying, alright, ladies, I'll be your magic teacher for the next few weeks. And then Tiamat saying, I'll be your physical teacher for the next few weeks on pure physical strength. And then Issei said, and I'll be your speed teacher for the next, and saying, my father will also be all of y'all's speed teacher for the next few weeks. When Tiamat and Issei's mother said no, we'll teach them everything they need to know for this. You two will focus on Kiba. This is when Issei said, why would we do that? Well, your father will. You will help with everyone's training, Issei. Alright. First, you must have a duel. And then Issei said, isn't this kind of an unfair fight? When Kiba actually said, yeah, no shit, Sherlock, you're literally a dragon god. And I am literally barely able to handle a few times Earth's gravity. Alright. As he was told, both of you will not wearing any ring. And then Issei said, you know what? Here. As he put 1 bracelet on Kiba. Actually thinking, what if I put 10 bracelets on him? As he put 5 on each of Kiba's arms and set them to the max setting, at 100 times Earth's gravity, Kiba was barely able to move. But he noted he could still barely do it, though he was moving as slow as a sloth, and his swings were super slow. And then he was actually right next to him was Konako. And he said, hey, Konako, here, doing the same to her and 100 times Earth's gravity, she was barely able to move, and she was super slow, but her body was barely able to adapt. So, being a little bit confused about that, is when Issei kind of said, alright, you two are going to spar and train with me for the next 2 days, as Asya, Rias, and why do I keep forgetting the name? Alright, so it's Asya, Rias, and not Konako. It was Akano. As they all completely, trained with Issei, not a big deal. As they completely unexpected, felt an energy that was so unsimilar to theirs. They were going against Issei's mother, who wasn't even trying. She was basically just swinging with one finger and sending them flying in her human form. Well, how boring. And this is when Issei said, you know what? You two? Good luck. As then Issei said something. Alright, we're breaking up into teams of 2s. And then he said, Rias, Akano, you will be facing my mother. Kiba, you'll be facing my father. Asya and Konako, you'll be trying to fight Tiamat. Good luck training. And then he threw 10 bracelets onto each of them, all at 100 times their gravity. They could barely even move. Noting that Konako and Kiba were just because they were stubborn and wouldn't let themselves go down. But everyone else was immobilized. Rias was literally stuck standing still, and Akano was on the ground, as Rias was soon to join her. Asya couldn't even handle this, and dropped onto her knees in an instant. And after only a minute, Kiba hit the ground like a rock. And Konako only held it for a few seconds after Kiba before she hit the floor herself. This is when he said, alright, you know what? As he completely took off half the rings. This made them feel so much lighter, and they actually felt like they could move mountains. After 2 days non-stop of practicing with 800 times Earth's gravity, trying to fight someone, and hitting the ground, wondering what their actual maxes were now, using the rings again to calibrate themselves, and then Kiba was able to handle 4 rings, which would be around 40 times Earth's gravity, and the 5th one he put on only was about 5, so it was 45 times Earth's gravity he could handle. And this is at the end of their training. Konako, she did her thing and put hers on, and she could only handle 46 times Earth's gravity, barely beating Kiba by 1 for her sheer strength. But noting her speed had increased greatly and Kiba's durability had improved so much, and his swordsmanship like non-stop. This is when they looked to the side, looking to Asya how much she could handle. She was able to handle 3 rings. That would be literally a little over, and which actually only turned out to be 21 times Earth's gravity. But still, Issei thought it was a huge win for her, and she said, looking towards Issei's parents with a huge smirk on her face. And this is when they were like, ah, crap, we actually do have to do that. And this is when Rias was able to handle 3 rings as well, at 22 times Earth's gravity. Alright? And then Akano was able to actually handle 22 as well. They were kind of dead stale in that one. But it was completely confusing. Well, they were dead staled, not by choice. They were only dead stalemates by a hair. Now, this did mean that if one of them was to get even a little bit stronger, they could probably handle the next level of gravity, but not quite there yet. And Issei wanted to check how his own power would go, saying that his family really didn't change at all. And then noting that Tiamat actually got an extra ring, now evening out with him. While his father had barely been able to go up 2 of them, 2 gravity times. Alright, that's not really a big deal. His mother was only 1 more extra than it was, And then Issei was like, alright, now let's see what I can do. As he put on the whole 28 rings he normally did, the 29th one, and then a 30th. Noting he now had a good bit of power. So, he literally had 8 on each leg and 7 on each arm. Being a 30th one, and it said, and he was kind of thinking, maybe 300 times its gravity? And it turned out to be a little bit off. It was 299. Saying, wow, I'm so close to 300. Wonder if I do a little bit of training if I can do that. As he did some slight shadow boxing and actually did this for about half an hour. And this is about an hour before the rating game, as he wanted to see if he could bump it up to that 300 mark. And he said, yes, 300. As he had to be healed by Issei, saying, yep, 300 times Earth's gravity. I'm the strongest. This is when he says, grandson, I'm so proud of you. By the way, we'll be out for a while after y'all's rating game. We'll get one day to see how everything went, and then we'll be going off to a trip. And Team Ed will stay with y'all. Alright, bye. As they went back there, and they trained, as they kind of relaxed for the next half hour, as Issei said, yo, Kiba, you think you can actually, I wonder if we could all handle them individually yet. Because even Issei is now stronger than, I'd say, most of the Parage, other than the Queen. And then hearing, what do you mean, other than the Queen? Well, I mean, yes, Issei is a lot more physically powerful now, but she doesn't really have the same magical attack as the Queen does right now. Saying, true, but do you really expect that to be anything new? It's Issei. I mean, still, she has one more attack than she did before, which was basically Twilight's Roar. Which, Twilight's Roar would basically... Twilight's Roar would basically just be that no matter what you did... Well, Twilight's Roar was basically taking all the people she had healed within the 24-hour mark, taking all those injuries, and basically turning them against whoever she just hit. And it would take all that health away from them. It would literally hit them with every injury she had healed. So if she had actually healed the disease, they wouldn't get the disease, but they'd be in the same state the person who was in the disease was in whenever Issei found them. If she had healed someone near death, then whoever she hit with this would be near death. She wasn't sure if it was a balance. She didn't think it was a balance breaker to her ability, but she did think it would be a good bit more powerful than expected, but not quite as an unstoppable amount as she'd hoped. Which, yeah, back to the whole thing. Issei's training them a little bit again, just on how to be absolute units. That means how to fight like there's no tomorrow, and how to protect their family like it's nothing at all. Now, at this point, Issei, he's a beast. We all know he's a beast. He'll always be a beast, no matter what we do. But back to the whole video. As Issei met this whole thing, Riser, each one of his pieces got taken out, except for his bishop and his rook, and his queen. The bishop and queen were the only two left, which was his sister and his queen. So that was it. That was him. There was 3 people left. But then, Riser went with everything he had, and even though he was able to dodge most of the attacks, a bomb and a fireball hit him. This put him out the fight. Barely, though. It barely took him out. As he was still saying, sorry, I couldn't do it, as he hit the floor. This was right when Konako went to throw a punch, only to be hit with the biggest fireball she'd ever seen, right behind Tiamat, which, even though a little bit surprised Tiamat on such power, it wasn't, even though Tiamat had to do so much power, even the training they did, it wasn't expecting how much power was in this one. It shook her to her very core, right when an explosion hit her in the back, which so many powers kind of stopped her. This took Konako out of the fight. Now we have and we still have the Phoenix tier, which the Queen uses on herself against Akeno, who was absolutely destroying her. But Akeno's not going unscathed, as the little Phoenix girl was still kind of do little attacks in there of fireballs, making it more of a pain. With them having a single Phoenix tier left, the only people left on the field were Issei, Asuka, and Rias, as well as Riser, the Bomb Queen, and Riser's little sister, Ravel. So yeah, this Ravel basically took her head saying, "Oh, this is going to be easier than expected. It's a 3-3 matchup." But then an unexpected hit happened. And by unexpected, I do mean complete shock of a hit. Issei started just bouncing like knuckle into knuckle on Riser, but instead of it being what he was expecting, Riser used a technical thing, which was an absolute unexpected power. This technic attack, which was kind of illegal, but it was kind of hidden, was something called the Dragon Slower. It slowers anyone with dragon abilities down to the point where they can barely even move. It would even make Great Red or Opus seem as powerful as only Tiamat. And it would make Tiamat seem as if she was a normal dragon, and it would make a normal dragon die. But as Issei didn't have any gear or any upgrades yet, he literally hadn't busted anything out in this fight, just his bare knuckle brawling type thing. As he's fighting, seems something completely unexpected. A fireball that had this weird stuff on, that weird power. And this was an unallowed thing. Like, literally, it's literally the equivalent of throwing holy water at a devil and then slapping them with a cross. But for dragons, this is the only thing that can hurt a dragon in this version. Now, there is still a little bit of shock in this, but not quite crazy amount. That little bit of shock is all that Riser had to use, as this power that hit him was crazy. Because Riser knew that if he had kept up, he could barely heal. He was basically huffing and puffing at his last legs. As Issei said, "Oh, you little fuck," as he's wobbling on his feet. And then Issei pulled out his real sword. He pulled out the dragon-slaying sword, and it clashed even with the with the kind of mist trying to absorb it, but it didn't help at all. As Issei went clashing sword against fireballs every time, as the sword flew out of his hand, as his power was even starting to get weak. Normally, there was only able to be enough where you could send maybe a drop or two, which would be enough to usually take down most regular dragons. But Issei had gotten at this point hit by over a gallon of the stuff. Literally in mist attacks, this whole thing. He'd been hit by it, and he barely noticed it. And this enrages Tiamat and Issei's mother, saying, "Whoever gave him that stuff is an idiot." Noting that this power that was taking Issei's ability away barely was helping. And the Bomb Queen, she just straight up kept hitting Issei with explosion. As Issei barely is on his feet anymore, as he's hit with 3 different attacks: a fireball, a big fireball, and an explosion. As these all hit him, he just straight up stands back up, even though he can barely breathe. This stuff is flooding his lungs. As he's about to collapse onto his face, this is when Rias forfeits, noting that she thought he was going to die. Thinking that he was going to die, this is when Issei opened his eyes, as he collapsed. still being drugged out there, healed by Issei, and actually needing a day to recover, saying the day he'd been passed out, and getting all this stuff removed from his lungs, they were basically just taking out, they were taking down, basically everything was already set up for Reese to be in the engagement party. And then he says like, oh, hell yes, I'm gonna bust in there. Issei, can I get something from you? What do you mean? Holy water and a cross? Sure. Here and here. Good luck. As she gave him a little kiss on the cheek, and he was like, oh, Issei. As a dragon mark appeared on her thigh, and he said, come here. If you want to, maybe later. And she said, maybe. See you later. As he said, but now go save Rias. As Issei took steps outside, saying, alright, using that magical circle he was given, going, surprise, bitches, lending eye to eye with basically everyone in the room, busting in there, saying, what's good, bitches, with the actual boosted gear on this time, saying, oh, no, I ain't holding back on you like I did last time. I challenge you. And this is right when Sir Zex said, Dragon versus Phoenix. Ha ha ha. Let's see who the true strongest is. This is when Issei's mother, father, and Tiamat all bust in the room, as well, saying, this is going to be interesting. And they said, who are these three? And then everyone realized who they were. As Tiamat was in her dragon form, it wasn't that hard to figure it out. They're like, Tiamat? And then the lightning dragon of destruction, and then, oh shit, the hero. Then saying, what are you three doing here? As right when Ryder was about to say, have the guards seize him, as he was just straight up picked up by his throat. By Issei's father saying, listen here, boy, unless you want everyone in this room to be cut down to ribbons, I recommend you don't test me. This is when Riser figured out who this guy was. Issei's father was the legendary hero who made even Sir Zex back up in a fight. But Issei would make Sir Zex grovel in a fight. Noting all he had to do was pull his head back and then launch it forward to probably kill Sir Zex. No matter how strong Sir Zex is, he wouldn't be able to handle this. True dragon of power. Right when Issei's thinking, a bolt of lightning comes out of Akino's hand, and then Issei's mother saying, oh, little girl, in her human form, looking kind of similar to Akino in a sense with her lightning, saying, oh, little girl, let me show you how to really use your lightning. Remember, it's in the power. As dragonic lightning hit the ground, and then Akino, in a little bit of power, able to use just a little bit of dragonic lightning herself, hit it down the ground with another thunderous crack, which would make even Thor back up a little bit. But this is when they were like, wait, what the fuck is that? Noting that there was very few people who were this powerful, and even fewer that were considered this sheer strength. Now, Issei knew that this would be a fun little fight for him, as he straight was just beating down on Riser this whole time. He still gave away one of his arms so he could have his dragon arm back, even if he had to give his left one to Drake. And it was a red one. But he then thought, as his blue one went back to its normal color, and being a blue dragonic arm, at least part of his heritage was still there. As he had a blue and red dragonic arm, he was walking in the fight ready to kill whatever he was going to fight, which even led to where the entire place saw Risers being beat down to a bloody pulp, as a crucifix was on Issei's left hand, and he even said, you know what, I'm putting your fire out now, popping open the entire the bottle, and pouring it onto his own knuckle, throwing it in the air, as he punched it with a transfer of power which made that holy water go powerful as hell. Like it was all powered up, which gave his max number of power to the holy water, which which made it where even the strongest would be terrified. Now, this doesn't really matter who you are and what species. This is the power that made even dragons crap themselves. This was the true dragon of domination and destruction, which is kind of Issei's title. Now, this is when a red mark would appear on Rias's chest. Slightly surprising her, it was a red dragon mark, with Issei's kind of shuffled hair instead of the full spikes, as Issei, then busting out of his regular thing, threw all the holy stuff to the ground, and then turns into a giant 45-meter dragon. Still growing, of course. They see this, it looks just like the dragon on these symbols that glow on Tiamat's chest. And right then is when Lassie looked to her thigh, which had the same mark, and then seeing Rias having the same kind of mark on her chest as well. But then something completely unexpected happens. As Issei went to his full size, being 100 meters. This made even Great Red think this kid would be a big thing to me. Wonder if I could kill him easily. No, I'm not gonna try it. To his full size of 100 meters, looking down at the guy. This is when Riser said, "I'm up against a true dragon," which, seeing red and blue scales patterned in a sense which terrified him. Even at one point thinking, if I fight this guy, I'm gonna die. As Riser, using every trick in the book, he actually tried using the same miasma, which, in full dragon form, would not work. I mean, it would still work, but it wouldn't be strong enough to hurt Issei bad enough. Getting hit with the same miasma, Issei just said, with a blow of his breath, knocking it all out of the air, saying, "That won't work on me twice," in a dark demonic force. As Issei had something glowing on his right arm, which was the same symbol, which actually started to evolve, which made all the girls' symbols evolve, saying, "I am the true red dragon of domination. Those I care about will never be hurt. Not by anyone," as he roars out in power, hitting with enough force to maybe shatter the planet. Though, right before he would have connected this punch, as Rabble jumped in between this, Issei wound up pulling his punch back, just stopping it short of her, which he said, "Stop or you'll be next, little girl. He deserves what he has coming," and she begged him to spare her brother, which Issei decided to actually spare him, but only for one little reason. If he didn't spare him, he'd probably get a bad rep, but whatever. Fine. As she had to basically pull her brother out of his beaten state, even in his beaten state, had to pull him, all the way, to a med station. And then Issei, as everything went crumbling, was still flying, but then he untransforms, and then noted something, and then everyone saw something. While every devil saw this, only a handful were willing to look away, which was only Issei's parents. Because every other devil was just surprised. Not Graphia, because she had already seen it before. And Sir Zex was actually a little bit, overwhelmed by it, saying, "What the crap is that?" Because whenever Issei goes into his dragon form, it kind of shreds his clothes. Now, his mother and Tiamat don't have to worry about that, since they've kind of mastered that art of perfectly transforming back into your clothes. Issei has not. He's still learning how to do that. So yeah, this is whenever he tried, and which actually ripped all his clothes apart. kind of being upset about this, noting he would need to buy a whole new set of clothes, as he wasn't quite willing to do that just yet. As then everyone saw his monster. Konako blushing a huge bit, saying, "That's a beast." Ria's thinking, "What a monster! It's as big as last time." Asya wasn't there, but she could actually kind of figure out how big it was, since she had laid next to him before and seen him in the morning. So yeah, this is right when something unexpected happens. Akano said, "I want me a piece of that." But then she started acting like maybe it would be too big for her, which it probably would be. Now, this makes it where Issei's kind of just trying to leave. Well, not really leave, but not exactly stay, like, there. Now, as Issei kind of just powers out, this is when something happens. As then the whole event happens, I think, with, then they have to go train, the whole, training of Gasper and all that happened. But in this version, Kiba being so beastly, Gasper's first thing in training is he had to act a little bit more manly, which they said, "You're being too hard on the little boy." And then Issei said, "You know what would be hard on him? Having to watch everyone die because he's not strong enough to stop someone." Alright, fair point. As he was training, and then Issei said, "Listen up, kid. The only way you'll ever be strong enough to protect Rias and any of them is with the power I give you." Just kidding, mainly. I'm saying whatever. I did skip over a good bit of stuff, honestly, but back to it. What we're going back to is basically all the way back to where I was. So, the church comes back, they do their thing. Issei saw them and was like, "Wow." And they said, "Still quite the beast, aren't you, Issei?" "Dragon boy." Issei saying, kind of surprised, saying, "Oh, you could figure it out, finally." "And how long did it take you to figure out I was a girl?" Alright, fair point. As Issei kind of said, "Alright, you know what? I'm gonna go." But the next day, the whole thing happens when Issei is going against Erina and saying, "If you can't even handle me, you'll have no chance to handle whatever your threat is." But Kiba barely kind of lost to... Actually didn't even lose. He actually won that one. His fight. Barely, though. Being the training Issei gave him really paid off. Now, then we're going to the whole thing with Kokobile. Now, in this version, when he has to hear what happened with Kokobile, he's about to attack him, but they decide that the school is going to be able to block that, and he basically takes a few steps, and the first thing that happened was all them wolves and stuff, Issei just straight up slapped away, and then saying, "Kokobile, fight me," going into his boosted gear, going even into Balance Breaker, and then doing something unexpected entirely, transforming into a giant red western dragon. And the girls are kind of hoping to see what they had saw last time. As it is admitted that God is dead, this is where Asya would hit the ground, collapsing, out of shock. So would Erina, but not as much. Zenobia, she would just be like a great bit surprised. Now, she's the wielder of the Randall. It's where Issei's father not having his dragon slaying sword, or the Randall at this point, because, there's a new wielder of it, and the other one is wielded by Issei, winds up actually saying, "You know what? F it. I'm gonna do this." And this is right when Issei's father pulls up saying, "Alright, so you've admitted that fact, Kokobile." Kokobile turning his head saying, "What the crap are you doing here?" "Well, I mean, you are about to fight my son, so I just want front row seats to this." With all 4 swords he has, which he actually has 3 regular katanas, one red, one blue, and one green. the red one representing Issei, the green one representing himself, and the blue one representing his wife. And then he also had that black sword, which he kept on his other side. He would use a 3-sword style with his regular swords, and the big one was mainly a one shot to anyone he fought. He only ever needed it rarely. And then this is when Issei's father actually said, "You know what? It's nice to meet the new wielder of Durandal, but are you really supposed to be as strong as I was? Whatever. Just don't be too disappointing." Oh. Dang. Oh, whatever. Back to this. Are you really supposed to be this disappointing? As Issei simply said, "Alright, you know what? Let's go." With Kokubile, first thing he did was start beating him down, and then right when Kokubile's kind of on the ground, collapsed, and this is right when the White Dragon Emperor would pull up, being like, "Hey, so you're my rival? What the crap are you? You're supposed to be my rival? You're way stronger than me." And then Issei said, "Sucks to be you, don't it? But listen up here, White Dragon. You supposed to be strong? Then be strong. But you're weak as crap to me right now. So get stronger." As Issei went back down to his human form, which his father kind of left before right when the White Dragon left, right when White Dragon got there, since he didn't see anything being needed, appearing back home with a warp, which was he kind of hated to use the move, but it was kind of powerful enough to get him anywhere he needed, anytime. So he would use the warp occasionally. Now, this made it where Issei chose to get there in an instant, which he'll only use a few more times, but he was still going to use it again at some point. And boom, the warp happened once more. But then Issei's father said, "You know what, I'm going to retire that skill. I think it's Issei's time." Now, at this point, this is right when the whole thing about the parents going there and everything happening, that wasn't really a big deal. But then Issei still saw that the whole summer break thing was, they had to deal with that. And the first thing kind of started happening was Gasper got a little bit more manly. He actually started wearing guy clothes again. He was wearing dude's gear. He was wearing good workout clothes to train with Issei, which he can only handle two little bracelets. While Issei was in the far more at the moment. Sorry about that, guys. Just forget that happened. Anyway, yeah, Issei was kind of struggling to keep training him, since, he's still so much weaker than him. But he was actually able to make it where Gasper could stop time on people who can hold their own with him. So yeah, he could actually stop Issei's father in his tracks for only 10 seconds, though. Issei's father was so powerful that it would make it where it's impossible to do it for any longer. And that was about it. Now we've got to go through the rest of the fights. Now, we've still got the whole time when Issei went to the Juggernaut Drive, which honestly wouldn't be that big of a deal to do, because the first thing that happened was the same guy tried stealing Asya, got told no, still stole Asya, got told he was going to die. Issei saw this dude, and then the dude straight up hit Issei with the meanest thing, that Asya will die, and this enraged him. He got her out just for her to be taken away, which enraged him as he yelled the chant. Even in his giant dragon form, he started to yell the chant, "I who shall awaken shall become the red dragon of domination once more, who mocks the infinite and frets over the dream. Juggernaut Drive." As he said, "I'll dob you into the depths of crimson purgatory, Juggernaut Drive." This terrifies the dude, because not only did he just have a giant dragon in his face, but now an even gianter dragon that's wearing armor. His first instinct is to run. Right whenever this happened, he said, and then this is right when the White Dragon would pull up, being like, and then Rias would say, do you think that the White Dragon Emperor could do something to this? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The White Dragon Emperor would just get put in the dirt, honestly. But this is an Issei out of his mind. He's so powerful that Great Red, he was even like, what the crap is that? Ophis is like, what the crap is that? Because this makes both their powers look like children. As they both kind of pop in there, saying, what's going on? What the crap? Yeah. Which, Issei, while Asya was completely safe, they had made sure to get her safe, the back there, they also noticed that Issei's basically beating the crap out of everyone. Now, this is when we kind of have to deal with the whole thing, him healing up and everything. That still happened. But then, we're going to still have to go through the whole thing with Cyberwork, and I'm not even going to lie. The first thing that happened when that fight went down is basically just Issei yawning and then going headbutt. Which, whenever he got put in that fight with Cyberorg, the first thing they had to do was basically be like, hey, yo, Cyberorg. And Cyber was like, what? We better run the ones. Rias, go back there. Rias backing up out of the fight since she didn't feel she could handle this. Then Issei would go berserk. He wouldn't even need his gear, but he had learned too much that people he was fighting in the Devil World were able to mess with his without no gear. So, he did. He beat down on Cyberorg with his gear on, boosting a few times, in human form though. And Cyberorg was actually surprised, because even base to base, he'd be crap screwed out of luck. But then Issei wondered, what would happen if he let this dude fight him with his full power? As even in the armor of the lion, as Issei started boxing 1-to-1, making it a dead stale fight, even with the lion mode, even with Issei turning off his gear, it would basically have no difference than normal. This is when Issei had an idea. He boosted himself up once, and transferred it to Cyberorg. Cyberorg saying, yes! What is this? You just transferred power to me. Yes, so you'll be a better fight. As they go running the ones, Issei and Base just started to beat on him, and him starting to beat on Issei. And in the end, Issei is standing there, victorious. And then Issei kind of had a family with, with Tiamat and all the other girls, same thing. That kind of happened, but not a big deal. Oh, I also forgot the Loki fight, but that was basically just Issei walking in there, smacking Loki in the mouth, and then sealing him up. That was basically all it took.